Oh my god, y'all, we are looking absolutely scrumptious today. I don't know what you did, but this is a vibe. Hello, my most beautiful friends in the entire world. For today's video, we're doing an updated GLAMLITE ranking. Last time I did this was back in 2022, and you guys asked me to do another ranking video. Back then, I only had 28 GLAMLITE palettes. Now I currently own over 49 GLAMLITE palettes, meaning I gained 21 palettes in between 2022 to 2024. So sit back, relax, grab a snack, because this may be a long one. I'm not entirely sure. Okay guys, so I currently own 49 GLAMLITE palettes. I believe there are 54 GLAMLITE palettes in total. From my research, there's 54, but I only own 49. I am currently missing 4 palettes, which is like GLAMLITE's original palettes of what they came out with, and I do not own them. I have seen them on eBay. I have seen them on Mercari. Some look like they're never touched and hasn't been used, and some
I'm like, I don't know if I want to buy that.
So I'm going to do a quick little honorable mention for them. So up first, we do have the Master palette right here. I'm not entirely sure when this palette did launch. There really isn't as much information about GLAMLITE as I thought there would be, like launch dates and stuff like that. I was kind of surprised. And I'm also kind of surprised because their website is currently like bare bones in terms of palettes. I think they only have like 8 to 9 palettes listed out of all their palettes. So that just kind of tells me either they've discontinued their palettes, they're out of stock, or the palettes they have come out with were definitely just limited edition, because there really isn't much available on the website. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But I do know that GLAMLITE is over on TikTok as well, which they may have more products over there. But we do have this Masterpiece palette right here. Like I said, I was not familiar with GLAMLITE at the time when this palette launched. I will say it's definitely not my favorite color scheme. I'm pretty sure this was right around the time where GLAMLITE had their old formula, when she had originally started her brand as a like makeup light company. That's what Giselle had said. I had the pleasure of meeting her. Beautiful, wonderful woman. And she talked about how her brand originally started as like a mirror company, and before she finally dove into cosmetics. So here we have the Masterpiece palette. Definitely not one of my favorite color stories, but you know what? For GLAMLITE starting out, it definitely is not a bad deal. Then we do have the Caliente palette. Now this is a very colorful palette. What I really do appreciate about GLAMLITE is that they never strayed away from colors. Majority of the brands, whenever they start off with launching palettes, they tend to go very safe with doing a very neutral, safe route. And I love that GLAMLITE did not do that. I love that GLAMLITE just gave us colorful palettes from the very get-go. They were like, we're bringing color. And I loved that about Giselle. I love that about the brand, because they were not afraid to go there, where a lot of brands were too afraid to take risk to do very colorful palettes. Giselle did not hold back, so she definitely released very colorful palettes from the get-go. Then we do have the Miracle palette right here. This is a really pretty palette, definitely more on like the purpley side, and you guys know that purples, I'm slowly kind of dipping my toes into that realm. I've always found purples to be very, very intimidating, needless to say. Like, it wasn't always like my favorite color story to play with, just because I feel like it can go wrong really fast. But I've been doing some really purpley pretty looks, and I've been enjoying it, so I'm definitely going to branch out more with that color. But I will say this is a really pretty outside packaging to the color story on the inside. And then lastly, we do have the Royalty palette right here. There's definitely some more purples in this palette, some more neutrals, and I just love that like pop of green. You can definitely tell it's like a dual shift kind of green based upon the swatches that I saw. It was very dual chrome-esque, and I just think that GLAMLITE really did bring it from the very, very beginning. They're really putting out some beautiful quality. They're really putting out some beautifully aesthetic, pleasing palettes without being too safe, too neutral. So I really do appreciate that. So those are the 4 palettes. I'm gonna do like a little honorable mention today, because like I said, I do not own those palettes. I probably will end up buying them at some point over on Mercari, because people do have them there. I don't know how old they are. I would assume they're like 6 years old, if not more. I'm not entirely sure how old, but they are really pretty, and it would complete my entire collection, because other than that, I own every other palette. So moving into the actual ranking, we're going to start off with palette number 49. Now this palette right here, actually conveniently enough, is kind of what put GLAMLITE on the map. GLAMLITE was originally just creating like the Masterpiece palettes, the Royalty palettes, but they didn't actually kind of venture at, but they didn't actually like make a true name for themselves until they launched this particular palette right here. This palette is what really kind of threw GLAMLITE's name out there and got everybody to go, wait, who's GLAMLITE? What's this brand? Myself included, because this was so different at the time. And it is the GLAMLITE pizza palette. At that time, there was absolutely no brand that created like a food theme palette or collection. And Giselle just did that. She literally did that. She talked about how she was at a pizza place. She asked to do a photo shoot inside a pizza place that she was enjoying pizza at, and they definitely allowed her to do it. She told her whole story and talked about the evolution of this palette, how it kind of was like a game changer for her. And I loved the outside packaging. Now, GLAMLITE back in the day was always known for creating such iconic packaging, and they've never strayed away from that. Like, this to me was so innovative. It was so unique, and it's what really sparked my interest in this brand, because I never saw another brand do this. Like, yeah, I think Makeup Revolution had their I Love Pizza palette and their little donut palettes, but like they didn't really go above and beyond the way that Giselle did. So here is the pizza palette right here. Now, I'm just gonna say, I love when you open this up. It looks like a little pizza, a little pizza. I don't know what that was. I was trying to do like an Italian voice to be a pizza, and I somehow butchered it. But I love that this literally comes in a pizza box, and then you take it out and you're going to have the GLAMLITE pizza palette right here. Now it says on the back, the most delicious palette ever. To get featured, use hashtag pizza palette, and GLAMLITE says, warning, do not eat. It's like they knew. It's like they knew that I had issues even back then. So when you open the color story on the inside, you do have a big, nice mirror, but this is the color story on the inside. Now, to me, this is very, and I say this very kindly because this was revolutionary for its time, but it's lackluster now to me compared to what the GLAMLITE formula is now. I do know that GLAMLITE did reformulate a while back, and they definitely changed how they made their formulas. Their shimmers are so much more creamier and buttery, and they're just so full of life. Whereas these ones, for starting out, they're not bad. Like, they definitely are very pigmented. They go on very nicely, but they're more of the GLAMLITE's older formula. So I'm not as in love with the older formula as I am as the new formula. So it's why this one's kind of ranked kind of low, just because their color story isn't a color story I necessarily would go for anymore. The formula is definitely not my favorite, but at the end of the day, I still have such a love and appreciation for this because it was so unique at the time for what it was. You just didn't see a lot of brands doing something like this. So for me, I think it was like what, 2017, 2018 when this came out. So different, so revolutionary. Really got GLAMLITE's name on the map, and it really made me kind of like fall in love with this brand. I just thought it was so unique. Like, look at how cool this was. Definitely not a favorite of mine anymore, but you know what'd be really cool is if GLAMLITE were to kind of fast forward and do a recreation of this palette, but how they would do it now. I wonder if there's anything that would they change. Would they change the color story? Would they change the packaging? I know their formula would change, but I'm so curious. So GLAMLITE, Giselle, Anthony, if you're watching this, maybe this could be a challenge for you. You know how people like go back and like look at their old stuff and see if they could do something better? I wonder if you guys would ever be able to go back and be like, you know what? Let's redo that, but make it 10 times better. Do you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, no matter what, I would still have such a love and appreciation for this palette. I'll never get rid of it because it was such a game changer. I love the packaging. I keep every single packaging that GLAMLITE ever creates. I have every single PR box that GLAMLITE has ever launched. I have every single PR box that GLAMLITE pretty much has ever given me in my little corner over here, just because I love and appreciate that brand so much. So I save everything. But coming in at number 49, we do have the GLAMLITE pizza palette. Coming in at number 48. Now, I actually got this palette in my GLAMLITE mystery box review. I remember that it was actually because my GLAMLITE mystery unboxing that Giselle actually gave me an affiliate code after that point to use for GLAMLITE, and I believe that was the second time a brand has ever given me an affiliate code. First one was Bling Blushes, second one was GLAMLITE, and I was still just like so blown away that I had a code with GLAMLITE. I was like, wait, what? This is so freaking cool. So that was like back in like 2018, but we have for number 48 the Meat Lovers pizza palette right here. So the pizza palette did so well that she decided to launch little mini versions of it, and they were featured inside her mystery boxes, which I miss the GLAMLITE mystery boxes. They were so good. I pretty much have videos, by the way, on every single palette that I'm about to talk about. And by the way, I just want to let you know, quick little disclaimer right here. I know I'm kind of rambling. The reason why the swatches are going to look horrible is because I have really sensitive skin. So me doing consistent swatchings on my arm really causes me to kind of break out in a rash. So instead of swatching like 49 palettes to make them all look really pretty, I'm just going to pull them from my old videos. One, it's really nostalgic for me to see how I did my videos back then, how I did my swatches back then, and to watch my evolution from then to now. And it's just like a trip down memory lane for me. So while the swatches are going to be horrible in some of the palettes, listen, besties. I was a horrible swatcher back in the day. I didn't like swatching, but now I do. So forgive me, but I just, want to show you guys the old style videos to show you how I evolved. Oh yeah, so number 48, we do the Meat Lovers pizza right here. So like I said, I got this in my little mystery box. You open it up and it says, oh, what's your favorite topping? And definitely not meat. It says, from the makers of the world's first pizza palette, GLAMLITE brings you the Meat Lovers slice. The savory palette contains 10 ultra pigmented shades inspired by the most delicious meat toppings such as Canada bacon, salami, chicken, ham, pepperoni, sausage, which makes the most delectable combination of rich reds, vibrant pinks, vivid purples, and now beautiful browns. Bon appetit! Oh, this is so cute. Again, I love the fact that she, even way back in the day, went all out for the packaging. Like, you'll see the little ingredient list right here, and it talks about the calories, aka what actually is in the palette. Love that little detail. You did not see a lot of brands doing that back in the day. And then you pull the pizza out. Again, looks just like a pizza. You open up the palette, and we're gonna have this beautiful Meat Lovers pizza palette right here. Now, she does have the namings right. She has the color scheme right. Now, I will say again, this is the GLAMLITE's old formula, so definitely not my favorite formula. And I'm not the biggest fan of pinks and reds. You guys know I'm not the biggest fan of pinks and reds. So unfortunately, a lot of the palettes you guys will see featured lower on this list. It's not because I don't love them, the palettes, just because I don't care for reds as much. So they're going to be a little bit lower compared to other color stories. But that does not take away my love for the brand as a whole. But yeah, this is going to be the Meat Lover palette. I will say the color I love the most is a shade called Bacon. I thought this was really pretty. Really enjoyed this palette. Definitely did get a lot of love when I first opened it, and it made me want to have a slice of pizza. I think this is the only food theme palette that I got that I did not eat pizza with. Normally, whenever GLAMLITE releases a food theme collection, I would always buy the food or the drink to match it. And I think for this time, I did not, because I wasn't into doing that yet. I had later discovered that for the burger palette, which you'll see. I did it for the burger palette, but yeah, this was the Meat Lovers palette. Still gonna be a staple for me, still gonna be a classic. My first ever mystery box from GLAMLITE. Got my affiliate code because of this review, and this will always have a special place in my heart. So number 48, we do have the GLAMLITE Meat Lovers palette. Coming in number 47, we do have the GLAMLITE Pizza Slice. This is going to be the Veggie Lovers palette, and it says, from the makers of the world's first pizza palette, GLAMLITE brings you the Veggie Lovers Slice. The savory palette contains 10 ultra pigmented shades inspired the most delicious veggie toppings such as olives, green peppers, mushrooms, jalapenos, spinach, and basil, which make for the most epic color combination for the intense greens, mustard yellows, and warm browns. Now, this palette is so beautiful. This one actually got a lot of love from me. Again, what's your favorite topping? But my only problem with this palette is, I don't know if you guys can tell, she's kind of dirty on the inside. And the reason being is that this palette got a lot of love from me back in the day, but it did cause the shade called Olive to kind of break and crumble. So you guys will see that it did break and crumble there. It got everywhere. It stained all up in here from it. This was such a pretty palette. I loved playing with this. You guys know that my favorite colors to play with are like orange, yellow, and greens. Clearly, I have an obsession with it. I just think because it makes my eyes look really pretty, I'm kind of just gravitated to those colors. But this was such a fun palette. This also was included in that mystery box as well. Again, such a cute, fun palette. I should have got pizza with it. Now I kind of want a pizza. But this was so fun. So while it's no longer my favorite, it's still a classic in my collection. So at number 48, we do have the Veggie Lover palette. Coming in at number 46, we do have the Viva Taco palette. This was such a fun palette for me to play with. I remember eating some tacos, I think Tijuana Flats, when I did this review. And again, I love the detail they put into packaging. They put so much detail in the packaging way back in the day, like before they became as iconic as they are now, before they had like the millions of dollars they have to invest back in their brand. She put a lot of thought and work into her brand, and I always love that about her. Everything in the back is like a cool little like taco. You open it up like a little taco, like literally like a little taco. So freaking cute. And then you're gonna have the palette right here. So this is gonna be the Viva Taco palette, and again, this is just one of those color schemes that was revolutionary for its time, was great for its time, but looking at it now in 2024, the Allie in 2024 looks at it going, ew, not my favorite. Definitely an older formula. The shimmer still swatched really nicely, which I really do appreciate about that, just because it is an older palette. But they still swatch really nicely. I'm sure if she were to redo it now, she might do the layout very differently, just because the colors are kind of just like thrown in there, and I don't necessarily see the taco vibe like I once would have, if that makes sense. Knowing what I know now about the brand and how they do their products, I feel like the color story definitely could have been switched around a bit. But you know what? At the end of the day, I still loved everything about this palette. I loved getting tacos. I love reviewing it. They still perform really beautifully. Even though it's an older formula, they still have such pigmentation to them. They still swatch beautifully. I know they still perform really beautifully. And Salsa Verde was one of my favorite olive green colors in here. And I just feel like Giselle really did bring it. She really did bring the food vibe. And I loved it. I'll always have such a special spot in my heart for these older palettes just because they really were what made me fall in love with the brand. So coming in at number 46, we do have the GLAMLITE Viva Taco palette. Coming in at number 45, this one may be a shock to you guys because I actually did not do a review on this one. I did a short, but I did not do a review because this one took a long time to come in. Not that that matters, but I just genuinely did not have the time. When I got this palette, I literally was like in New Orleans. I had just started a job. I was in and out of Vegas to weddings, so I did not honestly have time to review this. But I'm kind of glad I didn't, just because I was not the biggest fan of this palette. Now, I will say the packaging, superb. The packaging, superb. Absolutely freaking incredible. But the formula felt different. So number 45, we do have the GLAMLITE Kiss palette. One, I love the packaging. So freaking beautiful. You open it up on the inside, you're going to have this amazing packaging design. Again, I love when GLAMLITE does this. It just makes it so unique and just adds that extra step that makes me go, more brands need to be like you. I love the lentacular motion design of the palettes. This is their newer style way they've been doing palettes. So freaking pretty because, again, you don't see that a lot in brands. But the color story on the inside just really wasn't my favorite color story. I just felt that the color story was a little lackluster to me, a little bit more on the cool tone. And maybe it's just only because I am not a Kiss fan. I didn't grow up on Kiss. I know their music, but I was never the biggest fan. So for me, I can't really relate to the color story, and that's just more on my end than it is on the brand. I did hear from people who did review this that they said the color story was pretty spot on for their albums. I personally wouldn't know. I won't know any references in here. I won't know what the color schemes mean. I don't know. But I will say, for me, it's just the formula. Formula felt different. Like, GLAMLITE has a newer formula now, and this felt like more like their older formula, which I was kind of surprised about. Normally, I'm used to their shimmers being so creamy and buttery, and like you can like dip your finger in it and like it freaking just moves that shimmer shade. Here felt a little bit more hard pan and just felt like their older formula, which I was kind of surprised about. Just knowing that they have definitely reformulated their products, I was like, ooh, this feels a little bit older. So for me, it really just wasn't my favorite color story. It also looks so similar to some of their other Halloween collections that I was just like, this looks a little bit repetitive. So for me, it's why I ended up putting it kind of low, just because it's a color story I'm not going to really gravitate to as often as I do in the other. It's a color story that I don't really resonate with a lot. I don't have a lot of connection to this palette compared to other ones. So for me, this one is pretty low. Still love the outside packaging though. I love the work that Evelyn put into this. She put a lot of work into the Kiss collection, and I just feel like she did such a good job with that. Coming in at number 44, we do have one of the old GLAMLITE classic palettes, and that is the GLAMLITE collaboration with Alejandra Desi. This is GLAMLITE's first collaboration, and it is a nice little velvet palette right here. You open it up on the inside, and you're gonna have this really pretty, just kind of like neutral-esque vibes right here. Yes, there's some pops of colors, but definitely would be more on the neutral side right here. I love the old velvet feel. This was definitely a classic GLAMLITE palette from back in the day. She doesn't make these style palettes anymore in terms of packaging, in terms of design. She definitely does change things up, but I will say the formula in here is still really beautiful. This is definitely a like keepsake for me, just because it is the oldest palette in my collection. Yes, or at least my oldest palette from GLAMLITE in my collection. So for me, it's definitely a keepsake. Still love the color story, and I just thought this was such a cool thing to have. It's why I want to collect the older ones too, just because they are just like a staple, and I don't know. These ones right here will go like in a shadow box for me. But yeah, coming in at number 44, I just love the color story. I love the way that it performed, and I just think that GLAMLITE did a really good job, and I believe this was their actual first collaboration with an influencer. It's definitely not their last. They definitely had some more in between, and I'm pretty sure they have more coming up. Well, at least I would hope. Maybe one day it could be me. In at number 43, while I absolutely loved this collection, I love this review, the color story is really pretty, but it just does not excite me compared to other color stories. So number 43, we do have the Hershey's Milk Chocolate palette right here. This is super cute. It's a super cute neutral palette, but GLAMLITE does have better neutral palettes in my opinion. For me, I love the layout. I think they did a great job at capturing the essence of a milk chocolate bar, but I just didn't really care for the pan sizes I didn't really care for the pan sizes as much. I like to put my finger into the shimmer shade, and you guys can see that my finger kind of does take over the whole space. So it's not my favorite layout, but I will say the formula is really nice. I just prefer other color stories over this one, especially when it comes to neutrals, because I do like neutral palettes. I definitely prefer color over neutrals, but for me, GLAMLITE did create more iconic neutral collections, more iconic neutral palettes in my personal opinion. This was super cute, but definitely a color story that I don't gravitate to as much as I do other ones. So while it was really cute, I loved reviewing it. It definitely is not my favorite. So 43, we do have the GLAMLITE Milk Chocolate Palette. All right, so coming up in this next round of palettes, we're going to start venturing into some reds. Like I said, reds are my least favorite shades to work with. They stain, they're intimidating, they can go wrong real quick. I just feel like red looks beautiful on my lip. Like I can rock a really good red lip, but rocking a red eye look, I suck at. I just don't care for red eyeshadow. I never have. So this to me has nothing to do with the palette itself. It's just I don't like red nearly as much as I do other colors. So that's why these ones are going to be pretty low on the list. So coming in at number 42, we had the GLAMLITE Icy palette. Now I distinctly remember reviewing this palette and the blue raspberry palette because I had gone out to a Christmas parade that day and I had a couple libations, adult libations. So when I did my review, I was a little tipsy in that video and I had a lot of fun. So if you guys want to go watch it, it is on my channel where I did 2 different eye looks using both different palettes and I was a little tipsy reviewing that collection. No regrets, by the way. So here we have the GLAMLITE Icy palette. This is such an iconic palette. It's such an iconic like brand to work with. I think this is actually GLAMLITE's first licensed collection was their Icy, because I think right after it actually followed the Kellogg's, they're great Tony the Tiger collab, but I believe Icy was the first brand to collaborate with Giselle. Maybe not like her first contract assigned, but her first one that she launched was the Icy one. She launched these 2 palettes along with a really pretty Slurpee cup with 3 iconic lip glosses inside there, which by the way are going viral all over TikTok right now. So if you guys have them, feel free to go make some content using the Icy lip glosses and maybe get that coin by linking it in the TikTok shop. People love it. But yeah, so here we go. I'm running on a tangent, but here we have the Icy palette. Now, like I said, reds are my least favorite to work with. So all you have is just a lot of reds in here. I think the only 2 shades that I generally really did enjoy was the White Cherry and the Colorful Tongue, just because they're a little bit less intimidating, but everything else is like a deep red. It did stain my eye. I didn't care for my eye look. Just not as fun for me. So for me, it just wasn't my favorite palette to work with. Coming in at number 42, we do have the Icy Cherry palette from GLAMLITE. Coming in at number 41, we do have the GLAMLITE Red Velvet palette right here. Now this palette, I love that it comes in this packaging. I love packaging like this. To me, it just, they put a little thought and effort into it. And so when you open up the oven, you are going to have the little mini red velvet cupcake right here. So this I think was part of their holiday launch back in like 2021, I believe. I could be wrong. But they had this little mini red velvet cupcake. Now the reason why this is lower on the list is just because when you open the color story on the inside, you're like, well, where's the red velvet? You have the one red velvet shade right here. Everything else is more purpley pink, which didn't really make sense to me at that time. And even looking at it now, it doesn't really make sense color story wise. When you think of red velvet, you think of red velvet. You think of a red cupcake with white frosting, maybe some sprinkles, but you don't really see purples. At least I don't see purples. So for me, I never really got the concept of the color story. It never made sense to me. And again, it was just one of those like palettes. I look at it and go, maybe I could do 1 or 2 looks, maybe, but it just, I don't know. I didn't connect to it. I didn't understand the concept of the color story on the inside. I thought it was just a little off for them in terms of making that design and the color story. So while the outside packaging is super cute, the color story on the inside definitely was not my favorite, but the formula, incredible. So coming in at number 40, we have 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your doors. 5, 6, grab a crucifix. 9, 10, never sleep again. And that is the Freddy Krueger Nightmare on Elm Street, the Dream Master palette. Now this collection actually launched with 2 palettes. And this first one right here, we have a beautiful, beautiful design of the outside packaging. We have that really awesome lenticular motion outside feel. Love the packaging. But it's the color story on the inside that I just am like, just because it's that red color story. And I'm just like, oh, what am I to do? what am I to do with the color story? I look at it going, fuck. Just because I don't ever play with these colors. Like I said, red are my least favorite colors to play with. I really did like the shade. I love shades that have, I love matte shades that have glitter reflex in them. I think they're so freaking pretty. I love the little Freddy Krueger like claws that she threw in here. Really nice touch. The names in here are amazing, but again, it's just the color story that I just could not get into. I like that there's black and gray, but everything else is just a red. And if you are someone like me who just doesn't care for reds or find reds really intimidating, this palette just isn't for us, and that's okay. It doesn't take away from how good the palette performs, the formula, any of that. It just is a color story that we don't gravitate to, and that's completely okay. So while I love the concept of the horror theme and I love Freddy Krueger, this to me just was not my favorite. So that is why at number 40, we do have the Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Master palette. So coming in at number 39. Number 39, we do have the Burger Slider palette. Now this is part of a foodie box. GLAMLITE used to do these foodie boxes back in the day that were like not mystery boxes, but they were foodie boxes where she would release a whole little box dedicated to a certain food item. So this one was a mini burger palette. I actually bought a little like McDonald's cheeseburger to go with it, and it came like fried lashes, it came with like a lip gloss and stuff like that. I think some like burger like makeup wipes. Super cool. I wish I bring the foodie boxes back, which I think they did last Christmas. I bought one to do a giveaway for you guys. Still iconic. But here we have the GLAMLITE Slider palette. So you open it up on the color, you open the inside. We do have the little burger palette. Inside this little like burger thing, like you can pull it up and you can just like, you know, oh, I love it. I love the little touches that GLAMLITE did. The best. So here's the little burger slider palette. You open the inside, and here we're going to have this little 9-pan color story right here. She's cute. She's cute. This is when their formula definitely started to change. So I noticed that their formula was definitely a little bit different compared to their older ones. It's still not the new formula that it is now. At least I don't think it is. They do feel different, but still such a great formula for its time. Now, when I look at it now, the color story is cute, but I don't necessarily see a burger with this like I would. Like the two blues kind of throw me off. I mean, I guess it's for blue cheese and avocado, but avocado is blue, and that should definitely be like a green shade, and somehow it's blue. Then you do the lettuce, you have the frozen fries, patty, onion rings, red onions, and bun. I think if she were to do it now, I think she would definitely change their color. She'd probably make this a little bit more tan, definitely more of a purple color. A little bit more of like this would be patty, like just definitely a little different. Onion could probably be like a white iridescent shade. Like there's so many things that she probably would have done now compared to what she did then, but it's still really cute. I still had a lot of fun playing with this. I love the outside packaging. I love eating a burger. When I had this now, I kind of want a burger. I think I'm hungry, but it was just a lot of fun to play with. I just feel like if she were to do it now, I definitely think that this would be like a yellow, green, blue cheese. It'd probably be like an iridescent white blue with a light tan for patty, white iridescent or just a white shimmer shade for onions. The tomatoes would be a red. This would be a purple. This would be like a deeper tan, green. I think everything would be so different about this palette if you were to redo it now, but still super fun to play with. So that is why at number 39, we do have the GLAMLITE Burger Slider palette. Number 38, we do have the GLAMLITE Street Taco palette. This was another one of their foodie boxes. You open it up, you have the little mini street taco. And now I want a taco. Damn it. But this is still super cute. You're going to have this color story on the inside. Now this palette is still really fun. I actually recently did a video, I want to say like 4 or 5 months ago, where I did a shop my stash, and I actually used this palette, and I was still so blown away by how great the quality was even at the time. Even though they definitely have switched things up, the quality of this is still really beautiful. I love the shade called Carnitas. I think this is absolutely beautiful. I played with the greens and the purples and the oranges in this palette. Loved everything about this. It's just a really cute palette. I think they did a really good job with the little mini taco one. I think this one was definitely a better version of the Viva Taco palette. I think the mini one was just a better rendition of it, but I think that she still did a great job overall. I just like other palettes more than this one. So super cute. Had a lot of fun playing with this one, and that is why it is at number 38. Coming in number 37, we do have Miss Betty Boop palette right here. First off, the packaging on this, incredible. I love the packaging, the old TV style packaging. Link there. I think that's so freaking cute. I love the Lintacler Motion palette, and I remember that when I did this review, I literally got off a cruise ship, came home and filmed this entire review for you. And then I posted on TikTok, and somehow that TikTok is still growing. It's at like 44,000 views. I'm like, since when? Since when? And also why? Like, how random and so random. But the color story on the inside, she's cute, but it's just that color scheme that I just look at it going, eh. What do I do? Like, you can do some purple-esque vibes, and I think like I stuck to like the lighter shades. I tried going in my comfort zone to use the reds and the blacks, but again, those are colors that I just don't stick to that often. So for me, while it's a really pretty formula, it's a really pretty outside packaging design, the colors from the inside is just not something that I love that much. So it's a cute palette. I loved playing with it, but for me, I prefer other GLAMLITE palettes over this one. So that is why at number 37, we do have the Betty poop palette. I mean, number 36, I remember this collection actually launched right around Christmas time. So I thought we were going to get a Christmas themed palette, but this was definitely more of a spring vibe palette than it was Christmas. But coming in at number 36, we do have the Strawberry Shortcake Berry Licious palette right here. So you open the color story on the inside, you are going to get a little bit of those pinks, greens, and reds. Now, I really enjoyed the palette for the green aspect more than I did the red aspect. I just, love greens more, and I love the shade right here. The shade was so freaking pretty, but I noticed that this was one of the first few palettes that GLAMLITE launched that didn't have shade names. They just had color coordination, so I thought that was a little interesting. And this one launched with very little products compared to other products that GLAMLITE usually launches. The color story is really pretty. The formula is really nice. I just prefer other ones over this one just because realistically, I'd only stick to a few shades in this palette versus the whole thing. Usually a lot of GLAMLITE palettes, I can utilize the whole palette, but some shades I'm just kind of like, not my fave. So that is why, while this is super cute, coming in at number 36, we do have the GLAMLITE Strawberry Shortcake palette. Okay, so now the next palette I'm going to talk about, this particular palettes will always have a special place in my heart because I went to LA specifically for this launch, and I'll never forget meeting the team at GLAMLITE. They were absolutely incredible. Meeting Giselle, meeting Anthony. I met Sam. I got to meet different people who work in the team. I got to meet Nicole, the graphic designer for the brand, and it's just really cool to like meet the team and experience one of the launch parties, but also to have Giselle take us out to LA. It's been a dream of mine to be there my entire life, and to put my feet inside the Pacific Ocean was just something I will never ever forget. I'll never forget how beautiful it was, and Giselle took such good care of me and my husband. I can never say thank you enough for that. So for me, these particular palettes will always have such a special place in my heart because these are the first time I ever got to do anything with the brand. I thought it was so cool. So even though they're lower on the list, it does not mean I don't love them any less. It's just I prefer other color stories. So coming at number 35, we do have the special dark palette right here. Now, fun fact for me, I do not like dark chocolate in the slightest. It's not bad. It just has a really weird aftertaste for me, so I'm just not a fan of dark chocolate. But we do have this really pretty purple palette right here. Now, you guys know that purples and reds are, like I say 500 times, are not my favorite to work with. Now, I am dipping my toes into purples. But for me, when I first got this palette, I really wasn't sure what type of eye look to create just because there was a color story that I didn't really utilize much. I think only 3 shades in here I kind of gravitate to. The 2 deeper shades right here, I'm still kind of like, it's a little intimidating, but it's cute. It's a really cute small travel size packaging. I love the design. The color story is really pretty, and I love the way that they did this, make it look like an actual kiss. Super freaking cute. So while it's definitely not my favorite color story, it's still really pretty nonetheless. So that is why at number 35 we do have the special dark palette. At number 34 we do have the Lava Cake palette, which is another Hershey Kisses collab, and I actually distinctly remember talking to Anthony, who at that time was just the marketing director for GLAMLITE. Now he's the VP of GLAMLITE, so he's got promoted in that time, but he had told me how this is one of his favorite colors, and he was actually wearing it at the event. I love this color, but this is one of the only colors that I do love in the palette. Everything else, they're really pretty, but there's just colors that I'm just kind of like, I don't play with them. Like, I don't look at them and get super excited about it like other ones. So I like this palette specifically more for this shade right here. It is such a really pretty shade, like so freaking pretty. I loved playing with this palette, and I just think I love playing with that color right there, and I think mixing it with other palettes are really great, but still not one of my favorites. So that is why at number 34 we do have the Lava Cake palette right here. Speaking of Anthony got to have his breakout moment with the company when he launched the Chucky in Love collection. This is one of the first horror collections and one of the first products. This is the first horror collection from GLAMLITE, and one of their first products, I believe, to end up inside CVS. I believe that, or Michaela's, one of the two. I know they ended up inside CVS, but coming in at number 33, we do have the GLAMLITE Chucky in Love palette. This was their first horror collection, and this is what brought them so much sales, so much revenue. They blew up because of this. Like, I believe this collection actually sold out within 5 minutes. They could not keep it in stock, and for good reason. It's a fantastic collection. It was the first time that a brand once again did something innovative and came out with a horror themed palette, but actually did it right. Other brands try, you're like, oh, that's cute, that's cute. GLAMLITE's like, I'll do it myself. Let's show how it's done. And they did. They absolutely did. So here's the Chucky in Love. I love the lenticular motion. I think this was actually the first time I did a lenticular themed palette. You open the color story on the inside, and she's a really pretty color story. She is, but she's definitely more of the anti-Valentine's Day, because this actually came out around Valentine's Day, and it's definitely an anti-Valentine's Day color. Like, you don't have those bright pinks, purples, and reds, but you have those dark, grungy purples and grays and plums. That is what this palette is right here. Now, for me, I don't wear a lot of dark colors like this. I don't mind dark colors, but I just generally don't wear a lot of dark colors like this. So for me, while I think it's a really pretty palette, it's one of those palettes that I love to just really kind of appreciate. I probably would do some looks, but they're such dark colors, like such dark purples and like a plum red, that I'm just like, it's a little intense. It's a little intense, but I still think it's really pretty. I just like other ones more. That's my only thing at this point, is I just prefer other color stories over this one. So it doesn't take away from the quality. It's just there are other color stories that I'm like, I get like, ooh, more inspired by. This one right here would be something I want to do. Like when I want to do like an anti-Valentine's Day look, I would 1000% go to this. So coming in number 3, the most iconic collection that GLAMLITE has launched, which really put their name on the market and expanded the brand like no other, is Anthony's Baby right here, the Chucky in Love palette. Coming in number 32, we have Scooby-Dooby-Doo, Where Are You? This is the Creeps and Crawls palette. First off, I love the packaging. Oh, maybe this was the first one. I take that back. Maybe this was the first one. I know they did lenticular motion on the highlighter. That might have been the first lenticular, followed by Chucky in Love. I review so much GLAMLITE products that sometimes I don't know which one comes first. But here we have the Creeps and Crawls palette. We have Shaggy on the front, and then we have this color story on the inside. Now, this is a really pretty color story. The formula in here is just phenomenal. They really upped their game when it came to this formula. But for me, I look at this palette and I'm like, okay, it's really pretty, but I'm kind of stuck to like 2 or 3 looks, if that. I'm kind of stuck to what I can create. I don't get as inspired with this palette as I do other ones. I can create something really pretty, but again, it's just one of those things I'm kind of limited to what I can create with this. So that is why it's not as high. It's still really beautiful color story. The formula on this is incredible, but I just prefer other ones over it. So that is why at number 32, we do have the Creeps and Crawl palette. Coming in at number 31, we do have the GLAMLITE Donut palette right here. This was such a classic. Such a classic. You open it up and you're going to have the nice little donut themed palette. Again, they don't make these anymore. I wish they did. And I remember I compared this to the I Heart Revolution donut palettes. This definitely was far better. But you open the color story up, and then you're going to have this really pretty little color story right here. You're going to have a mix of shimmers and mattes with a beautiful like highlighter-esque eyeshadow in the middle. It could be utilized as both. I don't know. I really enjoyed this color story. While it definitely was not my favorite color story, it still had a lot of fun because I definitely kind of stuck to this side more than I did this side, just because those are colors I did not play with a lot at the time. But I love that I can play a lot with these colors right here. I love this color so much in particular. This was the shade called Maple. Such a pretty color. It's one of my favorites in here. And then I also really love this one right here as well. This brings back so many memories. This made me had a really wonderful donut when I got this. I got like a big sprinkle donut. Now I kind of want a sprinkle donut. Damn it. But this was a lot of fun. I loved playing with this, and I loved watching the video on this. So if you have not seen it, I did a review on this, and it's even on the back it says this palette delivers this palette includes 9 insanely pigmented and unique shades based on the most popular and delicious donut flavor as the iconic jelly-filled chocolate, maple, and others. No donut would be ever complete without the signature mouth-watering glaze, so we included an oversized glazed highlighter smack in the middle. Like I said, really, really fun. Loved playing with this palette. Coming in number 30, this is when GLAMLITE really started stepping up their packaging and really putting something different out there. And this was like, whoa. And when I did this particular palette, along with the other ones that came with this palette, I had drinks to match because I like to have fun. But coming in number 30, we do have the GLAMLITE wine palette right here. Now, first off, the packaging is so cool. It comes in an actual like wine bottle. Oh, I got my lipstick on that. Anyway, it comes in a wine bottle. I thought that was so cool, like a little alcoholic bottle. I thought that was very unique. This is the first time GLAMLITE did a collab based upon beverages instead of food. So she created this wine palette right here. And I love that she put in the very front, Best Wine Awards winner. She has a little GLAMLITE, and then you have the nutritional facts in the back. I love that little added touch. And then you open the color story on the inside. Now, I will say the color story on the inside is really pretty. It's a really pretty color story, but it's purple. And you guys know that how I feel about purple. So for me, it's why it's lower on the list, just because I look at it and I definitely can get inspired. I think it's one of the prettiest purple palettes GLAMLITE has come out with. And I said that back then, and I stand by it to this day. I think it's one of the prettiest color purple. I think it's one of the prettiest purple palettes I have ever seen. It really is, but I just don't utilize this as much as I do other ones. So while it's really pretty, I love the concept, love design, it's just not my favorite compared to others. So that is why at number 30, we do have the GLAMLITE wine palette right here. Moving into the 20s, coming in at number 29, we do have the GLAMLITE Blue Raspberry palette. Now, this palette is super cute. It really is a super cute palette. However, my only thing is that it's just all blue. It's just all blue. So like clearly I had to do an all blue look with this. And remember, this was actually compared to the Jeffree Star Cosmetics Blue Bloods palette. This was definitely a great comparison to it. If you never got your hands on that palette, you can definitely, well, I don't know if this palette's still, I don't think this palette's still around anymore, but if they ever bring it back, this was a great dupe to that palette. Definitely a cheaper version. I love the formula in here. The color story is really pretty, but again, I'm just kind of limited to what type of looks I can create because it's just all blue. And I love blue, but I like mixing blue with other colors. I think blue and yellow are really pretty together. Blue and orange are really pretty together. There's just so much more I like to do to make it a little bit more dynamic look. I don't want to just stick to just one color. So for me, it's really pretty. I had a lot of fun playing with this, but definitely not my favorite definitely not my favorite compared to other ones. So that is why at number 29, we do have the GLAMLITE Blue Raspberry palette. At number 28, we do have the GLAMLITE Hershey Kisses Cookies and Cream palette. Now again, really, really love this collection. Cookies and cream are actually my favorite chocolate from Hershey's, just so you guys know. That and almond. But this was a really pretty palette, but again, it's all blue. It's all blue. And this one only had 2 shimmers versus the rest. So when you have 2 shimmers and 4 mattes, and for me, I'm kind of like, I don't know what else I can do with it. Like, I love more shimmers. So while this is really pretty, it just doesn't captivate me the way the other ones do. I loved playing with this. I wish there was some more whites in it. I think that's why when they did the Hershey's collection, she added different tones to it to really kind of balance out the cookies and cream, because for me, this is just too much blue, in my opinion. Still really fun to play with, but not my favorite. So that is why at number 28, we do have the GLAMLITE Hershey Kisses Cookies and Cream palette. Coming in number 27, we do have their great Frosted Flakes palette. First off, my packaging, she's destroyed, okay? She is destroyed. There was like a little insert in the inside, but I kind of, tore this palette open. But you know what? It's fine. It's fine. I don't miss the old packaging. But here we have the GLAMLITE Frosted Flakes palette right here. And I will say this is a really pretty color story, but every time I look at it now, for some reason, I think of NBA. Like, I think of basketball more than I do like Frosted Flakes. I don't know why. Like, it just reminds me of like a basketball themed palette. It's weird that I think that, but somehow I do. Great color story. I love the balance between the orange and the blues. Even love that black shade right here with a little bit of blue reflect in it with those little blue shimmers. Really, really pretty. A lot of fun playing with this. Love the look that I created with this. Love that I got to eat Frosted Flakes with this. But yeah, I just prefer other ones over this palette, but still had so much fun, so much fond memories. And I think this is like when GLAMLITE created that really beautiful, iconic the Frosted Flake highlighter that I still have. It's like their loose highlighter. I think it's one of the only ones I ever had like that, where it's like a loose highlighter. So pretty. Love this collection. And I have such fond memories of this. And I think I really fell in love with the outside packaging because it literally looks like a cereal box. Mine is just crushed, so ignore that. But they did such a great job with the Frosted Flakes palette. Coming in at number 26, we do have the GLAMLITE Hershey's Cookies and Cream palette. Now for me, this one I liked more than the other one because this one had dimension to it. You had a little bit of brown, gray, black, gray, blue, and white. It definitely has different dimensions to that, and that to me I just prefer more because I can create different looks using that. I love this palette. Out of the two Hershey palettes that I reviewed, this was my favorite. I still think it's such a beautiful collection. I love a good cool tone neutral moment. This is definitely that palette for you. Very cool tone, very neutral, really, really pretty. Loved playing with this. I think they did such a great job with this palette. So for me, it's just lower on the list because I do like other palettes more, but I still really love this palette. So that is why coming in at number 26, we do have the GLAMLITE Cookies and Cream Hershey's palette. At number 25, we do have the GLAMLITE Chocolate Donut palette. So their original donut palette did so well that they decided to release a chocolate donut palette. Now it says this palette includes 9 intensely pigmented nude shades based on the most iconic, popular, and delicious types of chocolate donuts, such as iconic chocolate sprinkles, marble, Boston cream, and many others. No donut would ever be complete without this signature mouth-watering glaze, and so we included an oversized chocolate glaze highlighter smack dab in the middle. Now, let me tell you, this was, I think, was the first time GLAMLITE really released like a neutral themed palette compared to all the other ones they had at the time. Even though the other ones at the very, very beginning were neutral, this was like one of their first ones. So here we have the chocolate donut. You open the inside, and this was such a beautiful color story. I played with this palette so much. Like this shade right here called White Chocolate, she's dug into because she was one of my favorite shades to play with. Like I loved everything about this shade. It was just so pretty, iconic, very neutral, and I don't know, I loved this so much. This was perfect for like the Christmas season when they launched it. I fell so far in love with this palette. Truly, I fell so far in love with this palette. I love more colorful than I do neutral, so that's why I love it lower, but GLAMLITE really needs to bring this back. Plus right here, because of how heavy this is, you guys can see that my palette is ripping. I won't be surprised if pretty soon that this does kind of pop off. So I'm very careful with this palette now. I don't play with it nearly as much just because I don't want it to, you know, get broken on me, because I really do cherish all my GLAMLITE palettes. They're one of the very few brands that I have pretty much almost every single palette for. So that is why at number 25, we do have the GLAMLITE Chocolate Donut palette. At number 24, we do have the GLAMLITE Milk Chocolate palette. Now I like the packaging on this one, but it's, oh my God, it gets dirty so fast. But the color story on the inside, she's really pretty. Now this is what I actually wore when I went to the GLAMLITE event. I mixed this palette and the next palette. I kind of mixed the two together. Really fun, very nice, basic neutral palette. Very easy to wear this every single day. You can dress it up, you can dress it down. Really, really fun playing with this palette. But again, I just prefer other ones over it. So that is why at number 24, we do have the Milk Chocolate palette. Now coming in number 23, we do have the Milk Chocolate with Almonds palette. Now for me, I really kind of enjoyed this one the most out of all of them because I love the color story in here. Like the color story is one that I can definitely utilize, especially like that golden shade right here. For some reason, I'm like, ooh, fall, 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 fall. I can like utilize this for fall and I can mix it with the Milk Chocolate. And that's what I did. I kind of mixed the two together. It's very pretty. I love the 3 shimmers in here versus the 3 mattes. Great balance, great color story. I think she did a great job with this one. So coming in at number 23, we do have the Almond palette. Coming in at number 22, this might shock you guys, but I just prefer other ones over it. So coming in at number 22, we have the GLAMLITE Ghost Face Lives palette. So love the packaging, super freaking cute. This collection was iconic last year. Everybody loved it. Everybody wanted their hands on it. And when you open the color story on the inside, it's a really pretty color story, but it's definitely a cool tone, muted gray color story. Really pretty. I love the shade right here called Mirror Gleam. It's like an iridescent gray shift. It's so freaking pretty. And I loved playing with this shade the most. But it's just one of those palettes that I can definitely appreciate. I don't really play with a lot of grays and blacks as often. While it's a cool tone muted, there's definitely like muted grays, muted greens, muted blues. They're really pretty. But I just don't play with this color story as much as I do other ones, just because it's one of those color stories that I can appreciate and go to like maybe for like Halloween, or if I want to do like a gray look. I just don't really use them that often. So that's why it's a little bit lower on the list compared to others, but it's still great formula. Loved playing with this. I love the concept, but yeah, I just prefer a little bit other ones over that. So that is why at number 22, we do have the Ghost Face palette. Coming in at number 21, this palette in particular, I believe, is what put GLAMLITE on the map, or on the big radar when it came to influencers, because Jeffree Star and Nikki Tutorials and Raw Beauty Christie all reviewed this particular palette. And I remember Giselle was just so unbelievably grateful because no one was really talking about GLAMLITE at the time. People were, but they weren't really well known until this palette came out. And it's fun fact, I actually reviewed this palette on April 15th. Of 2020, because I remember in the middle of reviewing this, my best friend Alyssa gave birth to her second child literally in my review. Like I said, oh my gosh, my best friend just told me she just gave birth, and I was so excited I cried. So I'll never forget that for many different reasons. I'll never forget this palette, but it is the GLAMLITE Burger palette right here. That looks so freaking good. Y'all, I'm about to go drive myself to go get a burger. But here we have the Burger palette. So when you have that classic iconic box, you have a nice burger packaging to go with it. You pull it out and you're gonna have that classic burger palette that everybody took their video and was like, biting into it. I had a real Big Mac to bite into it. But here we have the GLAMLITE burger palette right here, and you open the color story on the inside, and this was just fun for what it was. Now, yes, you can see that, I think on mine definitely has like oil seepage. I don't know if you guys can see. I don't know what that is. It just happens. It is what it is. Also, I think that GLAMLITE started to get away with this because this slowly starts to disintegrate and tear over time. But at the end of the day, this was such a fun palette to play with. I love the greens. I love the yellows. I love the little bit of browns. The shimmers were really pretty. Such a fun palette. And I think I just ranked this a little bit higher because I have such nostalgic feels for it. This was what I reviewed right when COVID hit and everything had shut down. And I wasn't sure when I was going to go back to work. I remember playing with this palette because I never reviewed it for you guys. So I did. And I just have a lot of like soft spots in my heart for this palette in particular. So that is why at number 21, we do have the burger palette, the most infamous palette, what all the big influencers viewed to get GLAMLITE to be a household name. And I love this palette. I know she loves this palette. I know that Giselle loves this palette, and it was just so much fun. Coming in at number 20, we do have the GLAMLITE Cherry Pie. Cherry Pie! Even though I know it's not cherry pie, it's cherry bomb. But when I reviewed this palette, I kept saying cha-cha-cha-cha-cha, cherry pie, when it's cha-cha-cha-cha-cha, cherry bomb, cherry bomb. But for some reason, I thought it was cherry pie. I was a dumbass and thought it was cherry pie. And I was fighting people in the comment section being like, nay, it's cherry pie. I know what I'm talking about. I was an idiot. But here we have the pie palette. Now, this palette was super freaking cute. I think this might have been one of the last palettes like GLAMLITE created like this. I remember this, I think this was the last palette they created like this. But you open the color story on the inside and it's just a really pretty palette. I think for me, I fell in love with this because it kind of reminds me a little bit of fall and winter. Like it has those two vibes to it where I can create like a beautiful fall-esque look along with a winter look. And I think it also has to do with the fact that it is like pie themed. So a lot of times you have pie during the fall and winter season. So I feel like that's why I have such an attachment to it. I love the color story. I love the shade called Nutty Pecan. And in the center, instead of them doing a highlighter, they actually did a blush, which I thought was really, really fun that they did that. They switched it up, made it so much fun. And I just love that you can do a little bit of mix of neutral with a little pop of color. Loved everything about this palette. Loved my video. I think it was like Christmas time when I reviewed this, and I think I had pie when I had this. I think it was like an apple pie, but still so much fun. So that is why at number 20, we do have the GLAMLITE pie palette. Okay, so now we're coming down to the last 20 palettes. So this is where it starts to get really difficult for me because I really do love these palettes. I just am putting them in the order of what I love color scheme more. Okay, so coming in at number 19, we do have the GLAMLITE Chucky Good Guys palette. Now, I loved this palette. I literally rushed home from work to review this palette. I thought it was really great. I love mixing the highlighter with this palette. So first off, this is the second palette that Anthony curated with GLAMLITE. He created this in honor of the first Good Guys he created this in honor of the Chucky in Love palette. He decided to create the Chucky Good Guys palette right here. And I will say, packaging is really creepy, okay? Because like that little face staring at you, like it's like it's scary, okay? It's scary. But then you have the Good Guys, and then you open the color store on the inside. It's really pretty. Now, at first, I was like, okay, how am I going to create a look? But then the look I created, I loved it, especially with mixing it with the highlighter. This is actually one of the last palettes that GLAMLITE launched, and I know they're going to have a big quarter. I have been telling you guys that they've been talking about the Twilight collection, which if you guys have not joined the GLAMLITE broadcast channel, head over to their Instagram. They have a link in there, like description. You guys can join the broadcast channel, be part of making the decision to how to create the Twilight palette. They've been teasing the GLAMLITE X Trick or Treat collection, the Michael Myers collection. They are giving all the sneak peeks over there, so go join that. So right now, this was the last palette that I did review from GLAMLITE. It's still really, really pretty. I love the color scheme. I think they did a great job capturing the essence of the Good Guy color story, the Good Guy Chucky palette, his original overalls before he turned into an evil killer doll. Still really fun. I just prefer other color stories over this, but I do love the packaging right here. That like it looks like Chucky is in like a package where you can pick up the doll. Super cool. I love the way that Anthony thinks, and I just really enjoy playing with this. So number 19, we do have the Good Guys palette. And number 18, we have, now this is a story all about how my life got flipped and turned upside down. And I'd like to take a minute to sit right there and tell you how I became the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I'm rushing that because like I don't want to get demonetized. But here we have the Fresh Prince palette right here. Now this was actually the last party that GLAMLITE threw. I was invited to it, but I was not able to go. But here is the Fresh Prince collection, and in the color story right here, you're going to have a really big throwback to like the 90s. This was a throwback to the 90s. I feel like this was the color story back then. This is what everybody liked to play with. And I just really loved playing with this palette. I literally reviewed this the second I got home from work and got that review up for you guys. Loved playing with this collection. Love the color story. I love the bold colors, the pastel colors, and the shimmers. It made it very easy to create really cohesive eye looks, especially because you could just kind of go down the row right here. Loved this palette. Go down the row right here, and I just love the throwback theme of this. It's just really kind of reminding me of the show, reminding me of the 90s, and I just think that GLAMLITE did a really great job at capturing the essence of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I just prefer other color stories a little bit more, so that is why at number 18 we do have the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air collection. Coming at number 17, we do have Scooby-Dooby-Doo, Where Are You? This is the second Scooby-Doo collection that GLAMLITE came out with. The first one was the 2 individual palettes, then we have the big 25 pan palette right here. So one, I do love the lenticular motion palette. This is the first time they ever created a makeup bag, which is the Scooby-Doo makeup bag, and let me tell you, that is still one of my favorite makeup bags. I travel with it everywhere I go. It fits so much makeup products. Like, if you guys ever get a chance to get the GLAMLITE makeup bags, y'all gotta get them. They fit so much. But we have this right here. I love the lenticular motion, and when you open the color story on the inside, you're gonna get definitely a different range of colors. Now, the only thing I did not like was how spaced out everything was. Everything was so spaced out. I kind of wish things were more together because it made the palette a little bit unnecessarily big for no reason. But I still love the color story. They did not have any shade names. I believe this was a very strict launch because they only were allowed to have it on their website for a period of time, and then they had to take it off, which I thought was really interesting. But I don't know how licenses work. I don't know how contracts work. They just know that they were limited to how long they could have the collection available for. So here is the Scooby-Doo palette. You could definitely get a mix of different colors in here, from shimmers to light pastel to dark bold to deep grunge colors. This is a great palette, especially for the summer season. You could do so many different looks with this. I loved every second about playing with this palette. Had so much fun, and I love the outside color. I love the outside packaging as well. So that is why at number 17 we do have the Scooby-Doo palette. Coming in at number 16, we do have the GLAMLITE Friday the 13th palette. This is the Crystal Lake palette. First off, I love the cassette tape. I think it's so freaking fitting for this. I love the feel of it. Like, this is where they really go above and beyond for compared to a lot of other makeup companies. You open this up, and then you're gonna have the palette sitting right here. Again, it looks like a fresh cassette tape with the lenticular motion outside packaging. So freaking cool. The color story on the inside was one of my favorite Halloween color stories because I just love the grungy greens. I love grungy green. I don't know what it is. I really do. But you also have the grungy blues, you have the reds, and you have the neutrals. So I feel like the reason why I love this palette more is because you could do a neutral eye look. You could do a grungy green. You could do a grungy blue. And you could also do reds if you want to do reds. But it was still a lot of fun. Definitely think hit the mark on the Friday the 13th collection. I loved playing with this. I love my eye look. And it was just a lot of fun to play with. So that is why at number 16, it should be the 13 just to match. But number 16, we do have Friday the 13th palette. Coming in number 15, fun fact about this palette. This palette actually launched, I think, on October 1st of 2022. And the only reason I remember this is because when this palette was launching, we actually had a hurricane coming through. I think it was Hurricane Matthew, or it was right around there, something like that. We had a hurricane coming through, okay? It was like a category 1, category 2. And I remember Disney had shut down. And I remember I had reached out to GLAMLITE and said, hey, I'm not sure if you guys are trying to send me this collection, but if you are, I literally am about to get a hurricane hit me. And they're like, no worries. They sent me the collection ahead of time. So I was able to get the review up for you guys. I remember specifically in that review, I had my fall decor up, and I talked about how we have a hurricane hitting us. But a lot of you guys are like, but wait a minute, it's about to be October. Why are they doing a summer palette? I think there's like the end of the summer palette, but it is the GLAMLITE Barbie palette right here. This is the Dream Summer palette, and I just love this palette because it just reminds me so much of that day of that hurricane that came through. And I'm not saying I love hurricanes, but you know, me and Corey were prepared. We had our bathtubs filled. We had all our supplies. Like, we were ready to go. We stayed up all night watching the hurricane come by, watching the trees blow, the wind blow. It was, you know, interesting for us to watch. So that is why I remember this palette in particular, because of that. But here is the GLAMLITE Barbie palette right here. Now, I love this palette. I really do. I don't know what happens here, but I'm getting a lot of leakage where the colors are starting to leak out of my palette and stain it. It's a little weird. I don't know why it's doing that, but it is what it is. But I love the color story because you do get those mix of purples and pinks, but I love this side in particular because it made me feel like I was doing like an ocean-esque look. You have the beach, you have the sand, you have the light ocean, you have the deep ocean, then you have like the coral reef right here. I talked about that in ranking my summer palettes, this in particular, how they designed the color scheme. I loved it, but I also love the fact that Giselle was able to represent the different different. I love how Giselle is able to represent different ethnicities on her palette as well when it comes to the Barbies, which I think is really great. Again, you don't see that a lot. And fun fact, if you guys have not followed Giselle, she was just actually at the Mattel headquarters meeting the Barbie team. I wonder why. I wonder if it's a little sneak peek of something. Again, go follow the broadcast channel. But yes, I thought this was really fun. Love playing with this. I just never understood why this shade right here, it's like staining. It's like not supposed to, but it's like staining. Don't know what it is, but I still have a lot of fun memories with this. So that is why at number 15, we do have the GLAMLITE Barbie Dream Summer Palette. Coming in at number 14, we do have the GLAMLITE Chocolate Martini Palette right here. Fun fact, I don't like chocolate martinis, but I love espresso martinis. So very similar. Again, we have that classic bottle design right here. You open it up and you're gonna have the beautiful palette on the inside. Now this palette right here was probably one of my favorites besides another one in this entire collection because this is a neutral palette. But not only is it neutral, but there's still pops of color. Like, it's just weird. It's like a really fun neutral pop of color with a little bit of like cool tone, with a little bit of cool tone shades in here. But I just love the pop of colors that you can do. Definitely neutral looks, but you could add colorful looks in here as well. I think she did a really great job with capturing the essence of this. I loved it. I love the happy hour shade. It just was such a fun palette for me to play with, and I just love this neutral, especially the shade Vanilla Faca. This is like an iridescent, like white yellow shade. You guys can probably see it right here. So freaking pretty. A lot of fun to play with. She just did a really great job with this. Just had so much fun with this. So that is why at number 14 we do have the chocolate martini palette from GLAMLITE. Coming in at number 13, this launch this launch was a huge collection for this creator. This was this creator's first time ever having a collab with any brand, and she's so lucky that she got to have it with GLAMLITE. But it is the Michaela palette right here, and I know a lot of you guys don't care for Michaela. I see you guys in my comment section, but I'm still gonna give it to her because she created this really pretty palette with GLAMLITE. So this is the Michaela palette right here. Love the outside packaging of the beads. Super freaking cool, right? But for me, it's the color story on the inside. I love the color story because it definitely gives us a range of colors to work with. Like, I love the different variations that you have in here. It's like, I think it's a 25 pan palette, so you definitely have a mix of neutrals, but tons of colors. Now Michaela loves a lot of colorful eyeshadow like me. So I love that she had a really colorful palette. I love the greens. I love the purples in here, but I also love the neutrals. So you can definitely mix and match. I think she did a great job. I truly do think she did a great job with this palette, with this collection. Still love the glosses. The highlighter is still iconic. And I think just Michaela and GLAMLITE really kind of brought it together. This is a huge palette. This kind of reminds me of like when GLAMLITE was like releasing like their ice cream palettes and their paint palettes. They used to do really big palettes back in the day. And this was definitely a rendition of that, reminding me so much of it. And I just feel like they did such a great job together. So that is why at number 13, we do have the Michaela palette with GLAMLITE. Coming in at number 12, we do have the Michaela Pot 2. This is the mini palette right here. First off, love the outside packaging. It's like a nice little velvety feel. But for me, it's the color story on the inside. I love the color story on the inside. I played with this palette quite a bit. I love minty greens. Minty greens, I just think are so pretty to work with. But I did a look using like the deeper shades right here a while back, and I loved every second about this. This palette like could not stay in stock. It sold out so many times because it's such a really pretty palette. Very easy to work with. I love greens, and I know she loves greens as well. So I'm definitely a bit more biased to this palette because it is a green themed palette. I love the mints, and I love you can just kind of create a cohesive look just using two shades. Using two shades, you can create something so effortless. And she made something really, really beautiful right here. And I loved every second with this palette. So that is why at number 12, we do have the Mini Michaela Part 2 palette. Whoo! Okay, so coming in at number 11, this was the first palette that I ever reviewed on my channel in terms of GLAMLITE. This is my first one. I absolutely hate the eye look that I did. But you know what? I still was not good at eyeshadow. I'm not even saying I'm the best now. Like, I can still improve. I try to improve every day. I practice as much as I can, but you know what? There's only so far my skills would take me. But back then, like, I was like blending who. It was horrible, but I loved that palette. I love that review, and I even like did another rendition of it. But I use this palette in so much of my Halloween stuff. When I was like Bob Ross for Halloween one year, I utilized this palette. It's a lot of fun, but this was the first palette that I ever reviewed on my channel from GLAMLITE. And it is the paint palette right here. So here is the original paint palette. You open it up and come on. It's a little painting thing. Oh, I got to live my little inner Bob Ross moment. It does come with a little paintbrush, a little brush right here. I did not like this brush because I was like, realistically, how the hell are you gonna apply eyeshadow with this? Like, seriously. How the hell are you gonna apply eyeshadow with that? I didn't. Still don't like the brush, but that's okay because I love the palette right here. So this is the Introducing Paint Palette, the most viral and epic makeup product of our generation. GLAMLITE has been transforming the cosmetics industry by pushing the limits of creativity and innovation to create the most iconic products the world has ever seen. This is our masterpiece. The paint palette contains 18 of our most vibrant and ultra pigmented shades that were meticulously created based on the physical paint colors. So when you open the inside, you're going to have this beautiful 18 pan color story right here. This is a perfect rainbow palette. Like, this is the perfect rainbow palette. And it's also like a little paint. I could just live my little inner boss Rob, or live my little inner Bob Ross moment. You guys know I love Bob Ross. And this brings back so many memories. And I just want to like look back at that girl that sat there. I think it was in 2019. I think it was like 2018. And I just want to hug that girl because that girl was in a very dark place and that girl felt unloved. And I mean, hell, I still do now half the time, but I'm working on it. But that girl just had no idea what picking up this paint palette would do for her and the friendship that would build off of it with the brand GLAMLITE. And it's just, I have such a special place in my heart for this. And I look at it now and I still just get so inspired and I just want to like paint with this again and redo that look another time to see if I can redo it again. Like, it's just so much to this. The shadows in here are still so vibrant. They still feel so creamy and buttery. And I don't know. I love this palette. I will always, always, always love this palette. I will always have a special place in my heart with this palette. And I don't know why it makes me want to get emotional just thinking about it. But it seriously did start everything for me. And I don't know. It's just... it has my heart. It has my heart. So coming in at number 11, we do have the GLAMLITE Paint Palette. Coming in at number 10, we do have the GLAMLITE Paint Pro Palette. Now this palette, fun fact, is a little miniature version of the paint palette. So this one says, from the original creators of the world's first iconic paint palette, GLAMLITE is here to revolutionize the makeup industry yet again with our Pro Paint Palette. Get ready to push the limits of creativity and innovation with the entirely new array of colors, meticulously curated to be the essential and staple palette for every artist. So it has 18 vibrant shades in here, inspired by physical paint. So what's best about this is that this gives us a different color story. So you're going to have a different color story. You're going to have different undertones to the original paint palette that you could definitely mix and match. And it did come with a brush, but as you guys can see, I didn't even bother using the brush. For me, not a fan. But the color story is really pretty. So here you're going to have brighter pastel shades in here. So you're going to have different undertones. You're still going to have the same kind of layout with different undertones in here, which I think is really pretty. Again, this shade right here did leak. I don't know what that is, but it's a little miniature palette of the paint palette with different undertones to it, so you can create different looks, which I really love. And what I love about this is that when I reviewed this palette, I actually recreated the first paint palette look and what I thought would be a better rendition. Now looking at it again, I'm still can definitely use room for improvement, but I definitely recreated that look to see if I can do something better. And I did, at least at the time I did. How I do it now, I have no idea. But I still had so much fun looking at that palette, recreating it, comparing it to the original. It was just a really good time for me. So for me, again, another palette that I'll always hold near and dear to my heart. So coming at number 10, we do have the Paint Pro palette. Okay, now down to the last 10 palettes, or I guess 9 palettes. But coming in at number 9, we do have the GLAMLITE Margarita palette right here. Now, fun fact, I do not like tequila. Like, I do not like tequila in the slightest. I cannot stomach it, cannot handle it. It hurts my stomach like this one tomorrow. So I never drink it. So I don't like margaritas, sadly. But here we have the Margarita palette, which I do know that, like, I think Giselle said this was one of her favorites. And so this is how the palette's going to look. It's a really fun, bright, colorful palette. Like, this is perfect for the summer season. You're going to have those bright pastel shades with the bright, like, shimmer shades. Really fun, really festive. You can create so many different looks with this. I think this is perfect for this spring and summer season. It's why I ranked it so high, because I utilize this a lot during that time. And I just feel like it's such a fun palette. Like, I think she did a really great job capturing the essence of, like, summer and spring. I don't really know how it fits the vibe of, like, margaritas, but I also don't drink margaritas, so I really couldn't tell. But this was such a fun palette to play with. So coming in at number 9, we do have the GLAMLITE margarita palette. It's so funny. I feel like this video is so long because I feel like I have a story for every palette, but I told you I love this brand and I have such a connection to it. So coming at number 8, this particular palette right here, I will never forget. I was running food at work. I was a server, but I was running food that day, and we had a server. We had one of the servers completely quit on us. We were in the middle of running our food that day. As a food runner, it was my job to run all the food to the table, and I get tipped out. Okay, really easy job. However, we had a server quit. So she quit and I was like, oh shit, like I gotta go get this palette. It was launching at 1. I knew I had to go get it. So I didn't care. We were down just to me and this one other runner. I ran to the bathroom. Well, I did not have good service at Disney and I freaking got this palette. And I know all the managers like, where's Allie? Where's Allie? Where's Allie? Bitch, I was buying the damn palette. I did not want to miss it. It was because it is the iconic cake palette. Like, it was the iconic cake palette. I could not miss this. Now, when I reviewed this, I reviewed it with a cupcake because I love cupcakes. They are my kryptonite. And I reviewed it with a cupcake and I loved that review. I loved eating that cupcake, and I love that in my video I was like, do not eat, because I was tempted to eat it. But here we have the cake palette right here. You're going to have that classic oven shape. You open it up. You're opening the oven and you're going to have this really pretty palette right here. So it says the most delicious cake is fresh out of the oven. GLAMLITE, the world's first fast food makeup brand, is now here to satisfy your sweet tooth with the tastiest dessert of them all. The cake palette contains 20 ultra pigmented and never seen before shades inspired by the most delectable cake flavors from around the world. So here is the cake palette. You have the nutrition facts on the back. And then you open it up to the side, and this is going to be the color story right here. It's a really beautiful, colorful palette. Like I said, from the very beginning, GLAMLITE was not afraid to go there when it came to colors. They were not afraid to bring you colors, even from way back in the day. And they delivered. They delivered with this palette. I loved playing with this palette. It was so worth me getting in trouble at work to get this palette. Absolutely worth it. Would I do it again this day? Like this day and age, now that I'm back at Disney? Oh, absolutely. If there's a launch, I'm not missing it. If I had to miss like 5 minutes of work, you know, I'll tell them I'm taking a shit. I gotta get this palette. I'm really getting the palette, but I'll say, I gotta take a shit. What are they gonna say? No, please. So yeah, it was so fun. I loved getting this. I loved reviewing this. And I just distinctly remember food running when this launched, and they were looking for me because their server had just quit. And so they're down to just to one person to run to 2 different floors. That was a lot. It was during our busy lunch hour, but I knew I could not miss this palette, and for good reason. I still love it so much. So coming in at number 8, we do have the cake palette. Coming in at number 7, I have another story. It's why this video is so long. I'm so sorry. But with this particular collection, I did not buy it. This was the first time a brand had sent me, I wouldn't say PR because it wasn't PR, but Giselle actually reached out to me and she sent me a gift card to use for this collection. And I was so blown away because the brand had never done that for me before. So she literally sent me a gift card. She said, hey, we're launching this collection. Here's a gift card if you want to pick it up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I absolutely did. And I will never forget that. It was right during COVID. I remember I think in August of 2020, because I remember my bright blonde hair and this new background and everything. So I picked it up, but it was the GLAMLITE ice cream palette. So first off, the outside packaging, so freaking cute, and it says the most delicious ice cream palette is fresh out of the freezer and ready to serve. Ice Cream Dream contains 30 exquisite and tasty ice cream types and flavors. Oops, we meant shades, including the traditional flavors like vanilla, chocolate, rocky road, cookie dough, or spice up your taste buds with the gourmet delights such as honey lavender, taro, and many more. So first off, the outside packaging, super freaking iconic. Again, you don't see brands doing it. You didn't see brands doing this at the time. They still don't, by the way. Loved it. And then you open up the car like you're getting ice cream, and you're going to have the ice cream palette right here. So this is going to be the iconic ice cream collection. First off, you'll have little sprinkles in the very front, and then you open it up. You're going to have this really pretty color story right here. This is a huge palette. Huge palette. You're going to have a mix of those neutrals along with so many different pastel shades and shimmers. This is a perfect palette for spring and summer. I make sure I talk about that every single time I do a ranking for summer and spring because this palette truly is iconic for that. It also comes with a really big size mirror. But I loved this palette. I love playing with this palette. I think this is still such a beautiful palette that GLAMLITE created. I wish more brands would do something like this. Just love everything about this. From the color story to the theming, to the outside packaging, to just everything about this was so fun. And for me, like I said, this was the first time that Giselle had reached out, given me a gift card to purchase from her brand to buy this entire collection. And I was just so grateful. I did not have the money for it at the time, and I just got to buy everything for this launch. Loved it. I got to eat a lactate-free ice cream. But it was so much fun, and so I'll be forever grateful. So thank you so much, Giselle, because that was game-changing for me. Number 6, we have the Michaela Pot 2 palette right here. So we have the iconic outside packaging, just like the first. And then on the inside we have this beautiful color story. Now, y'all, Michaela loves her greens. She loves her greens. And that first 3 rows right here, say less. Those were my colors. Those were my colors. And then she does have her blue row, her purple row, but all of this was what I was obsessed with. And I still am, because it's such a pretty color story. Regardless of how you feel about Michaela, she did a really good job picking out the color story. You have to admit that. It's really great out there for anyone who loves greens, purples, and blue. This is a fantastic palette. There really isn't much for neutral lovers, so I do apologize for that. I don't know why I'm apologizing. Like, I didn't create it. But it's still so much fun. I just love the different tones of greens, because greens are some of my favorite to work with. And I just really, really, really connected to this palette so much. I believe this palette, I don't know if it's sold out. It might have. But this actually was featured inside CVS, which I thought was actually really cool. So coming in at number 6, we do have the Michaela Part 2 palette. Coming in at number 5, we have the Scooby-Dooby-Doo Row palette. I love the outside packaging. So freaking pretty. But the color story on the inside, it's so unique. It's so unique. It actually kind of reminds me a little bit of the Batty Beans or Betty Jean's collab that she did with Shroud Cosmetics. That was when she was Butte Bean. It kind of reminds me of It's Freaking Bats palette. I think palettes like this, for some reason, always remind me of a mummy. I don't know why. I don't know why, but it does. And that's the vibe I get with this right here. I love like this periwinkle blue. It's so pretty. And then you have like that olive dot, like doo-doo green shade. You have a little bit of a different like icy purple shade with the blues, the greens. It is just so pretty. It's definitely so unique in terms of a color story. I think GLAMLITE did a really great job with this. I connected to this one so freaking much. I love it so much. I still play with this a lot. And that is why it is ranked at number 5, because it is still such an iconic collection. I love it. Coming in at number 4, we have the 1, 2 Freddy coming for you. This is the Nightmare on Elm Street Freddy Krueger palette. So first off, again, outside packaging, freaking iconic. Have the lenticular motion feel right here between the claws and Freddy Krueger. But y'all, this color story on the inside, say less. Say less. This is freaking beautiful. This is freaking beautiful. It is that muted freaking olive green shades. I love these style greens. I think they're so pretty to work with. It's like an olive vibe palette, and I just love olive colors. I think olive colors are so flattering on so many different skin tones out there. I feel like they're the most complimentary shade out there. I feel like it's so flattering to so many people. And that's what this was right here. That was what this was. So pretty. Loved everything about this palette, from the outside packaging to the color story to the way they designed their imprints in the shadows. I think GLAMLITE did such a great job. So that is why it's ranked so high and why it's number 4, because it's still so freaking iconic. I love this. Coming in at number 3, I did not expect this palette to be as viral as it is, but they cannot keep this palette in stock. Every time they put it back inside their TikTok shop, I'm not kidding when I say it disappears so freaking quickly, and for good reason. It is the Rick and Morty palette right here. Now, I have watched the show, not the biggest fan. I'm still more of like a Family Guy and South Park galley. Like, that's what I kind of vibe with more, but I still really enjoy the show. I think it's really funny, but this palette cannot stay in stock, and like I said, for good reason, because look at this color story. Can we talk about how gorgeous this color story is? Like, it is such a gorgeous color story. You're going to have those oranges, greens, purples, blues, grays, blacks. Like, it is such a stunning, I mean, like stunning, stunning, stunning color story. Not to mention, they make the layout so user-friendly. You can just kind of go down the row, again, to create such beautiful eye looks, or you can kind of go across however you wish to do so. They make it so friendly, and it is such a beautiful palette. And like I said, they cannot keep this in stock, and for good reason, because it just gives you everything that you need and more between the mix of mattes and shimmers. So freaking stunning. I love everything about this palette, and I do hope they can get a restock on this, because it is so, so good. So coming number 3, we do have the Rick and Morty palette. Coming down to the last 2 palettes, this was very difficult for me for 2 different reasons. I love both color stories so much, because 1, I absolutely love fall. It is my favorite time of the year. Absolute favorite time of the year. But 2, I love a good olive green eye look. So for me, this was very, very difficult to pick between the 2 palettes. 1, I knew I loved from the moment I got it. The other one took me by surprise. I didn't think I was going to love it until I did my review, until I did my eye look, and I was like, holy shit, this palette is freaking fire. And it's so underrated. People do not love this palette enough, and I think it deserves more credit than what it actually gives. So coming at number 2, this was a very, very, very difficult choice for me, by the way, but I had to pick one. So coming at number 2, we do have the GLAMLITE Garfield palette. When I first announced this palette was going to be, I was kind of skeptical. I was like, Garfield, it's kind of old. Is anyone really going to care about this? Wasn't really sure what I was going to think about this collection. I had no expectations. But when I got it and I swatched it and I played with it, I was like, oh my God, this is such a stunning palette. And this palette does not get enough love because it truly is such a gorgeous palette. One, the formula is incredible. The shimmers are just like a dream. They swatch like a dream and they feel amazing. And they're just like true butter. But then 2, the mattes are super pigmented and blendable. But 3, this is a perfect fall palette. I utilize the yellow, the gold, the orange, and like these shades right here to create a really beautiful fall-esque vibe. And when I played with that palette and I did that look, I fell so hard in love. And I know I wasn't the only one. There's so many people who reviewed this palette and said, oh my God, like they were so blown away by the quality of it because the quality was different. Like the quality just was like a top tier quality palette. For the cost that it was so affordable. I think it was like 20 something bucks with an amazing quality. And I just feel like the color story really spoke for itself. And I just love everything about this. You guys would definitely see me ranking this pretty high in my fall ranking palettes coming up later this week. And I just, oh my God, it was so hard because you guys know I live for these colors. I live for them. These are orange is my absolute favorite color in the entire world. Actually, let me be more specific. This color, orange, like these color, like the burnt oranges are like pumpkin orange, burnt oranges, like the Halloween oranges are more my favorite color orange. Like I like the lighter ones, yes, but like it's like the deep burnt blood orange, pumpkin orange, sunset orange that I gravitate to the most. That's my absolute favorite color in the entire world. My next favorite color after that is mustard yellow. I love a good like fall yellow. That is my second favorite color in the entire world, followed by green and olive green. I love a good olive green. But I feel like when it comes to eye looks and it comes to what I look better in, green just compliments me more. I get the most compliments whenever I wear green. You guys are obsessed whenever I wear green. So for me, that is why this was very difficult because it was between this one and one other one. And the other one won just by like that much. So coming number 2, we have the GLAMLITE X Garfield palette. Coming in at number 1, I believe this is actually ranked number 1 in my last GLAMLITE ranking video, and it is the GLAMLITE Dirty Martini palette. Now granted, I don't drink dirty martinis. I think they're gross. I truly do think that they're gross. But the color story is where it's at. It's what I'm literally wearing on my eyes right now. So this is the Dirty Martini palette. Okay, I am wearing the shade right here called Dry Vermouth. I put the shade called High Class. And then right in the center, I'm wearing Just a Splash. And then underneath, I am wearing the shade called Mix It Up, along with Green Olive. That is all I'm wearing on my lid right. That's all I'm wearing on my eyes right now. And it's just so pretty. It's that perfect, like, olive green. I love a good olive green palette. You get a mix of that in here. And you'd also have a little bit of aqua blues to kind of counteract it and make it a little bit more dimensional. And I just think it's so pretty. I think it was so well thought of. I love every single color story. I feel like this particular palette is so beautiful on almost every single skin tone that is out there because it is just that beautiful green, that olive green, that sage green, that military green. It's everything in this, and it's just why it came in at number 1 because out of all the GLAMLITE palettes, this is the one that I go back to time and time and time again to play with. And it's really sad because I don't have this on their website. I really hope they consider bringing this back because I feel like if they did, especially now in the TikTok shop, I think they'd be surprised with how well this palette actually would sell. So that, my most beautiful friends in the entire world, is my entire GLAMLITE ranking video. This was such a long video. I went over 54 palettes, technically 49 of which I own. But as you guys can see, I have been an avid lover of GLAMLITE for a very, very, very long time. I truly am obsessed with the brand. I told you guys I was obsessed for years, and now you guys know that I am such a collector for them. I've loved everything from the packaging to the color stories to the formula, just everything about the brand. They've been so incredible. They definitely are making changes in the beauty community. They're They're making the makeup fun again. They're so innovative with whatever they come out with. I just love the stuff that they do. And I know that they have a big quarter coming up. So just you guys wait. So with that said, I'll make sure to link everything I'm wearing on my face down below. I do apologize if a lot of these products are not available, but just keep an eye out. You never know. They might end up bringing it back, I think, based upon popular demand. So if you guys want some of these back, let them know. With that, my beautiful friends, is it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please make sure you guys give this video a cheeky thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you guys have not already, to do post 3 to 4 videos every single week. Make sure you guys head over to my other channel. It's R for Life. You guys get to see my cool, wonderful adventures with my amazing husband, Corey. And as always, the biggest thank you goes to these beautiful, wonderful page members you guys see right here. Thank you guys so much for everything. And to my subscribers and viewers, thank you guys so much for being here. Whether you guys like this video, you guys thumbs down this video, you guys subscribed, you guys did not subscribe, either way, thank you guys so much for being here. I love and appreciate each and every single one of you. So with that said, guys, I love you, and I'll see you guys in my very next video. Bye! But we do have this Masterpiece palette right here. Like I said, we do have this Masterpiece palette. Look, here we have the Masterpiece palette. Well, I wish I bring the Foodie Bodies back. The Boop palette. I think I might have said poop. I think it sounded like I said poop, but I said boop. And that is how... So go join that. But yeah, that is how I have, and go join that. So that was like, and go join that. So as on my palette, GLAMLITE ranking palette, and that is why it's at number 4. Oh, mother. I am so hungry. Please don't continue to follow me, please. Please, please, please. Please, please. Oh my goodness, holy sh...